Okay, I have started the recording. Welcome again. So in today's session we are going to go through labeled and optional arguments. So before I start that, in the previous session we were trying to try this matrix multiplication UTOP, and we were not able to complete it because we were having multiple different packages included, and we didn't have the printf function to be able to execute this. So I'm just going to quickly do this step first in UTOP, and then we will move on to the labeled and optional arguments section. So let me start UTOP here. The notes does have the updated steps to actually get this working by requiring stdio. So let's first use top find, so we're able to import all the required packages, and then we have to do require stdio. Okay, then we open stdio. Okay, so this has printf and printf method, so we can actually now go and try this. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to copy paste these definitions, but I would encourage you to type it in the UTOP session. That's the make matrix rows, columns and size definition. Then we have the inner loop. In the previous session we typed it, so when you're trying it, do type it, and then we have this definition here, which will be the matrix multiplication itself. So let's copy that. And then finally, of course, we want to execute this. One change we want to do here is we are not going to call the sysargv. We're not going to run it from the command line, so I'm just going to pass an example of 3 here, and we get the result here, right? So this is something that we couldn't get running in the previous session. So using stdio and OpenStudio, we get the correct printf module and the printf function that you can use here. Okay, so this is the loops and recursion. Let me paste the link in the chat, and then we will now move on to labeled and optional arguments. That's the section that we want to cover today. Right. So I pasted the link to the URL. So you can give names and default values to function parameters. So these are known as labels. In this tutorial, the parameters that are not labeled are called as positional parameters. Okay. So we can go through a simple example of how to pass labeled arguments. Let me clear UTOP here. So we already seen option dot value, right, and we can have option dot value. You can pass labeled argument using a tilde, and they can be placed at any position and any order. So say sum of 10, basically that should return 10, and this default should not matter. or I can also change the order here, right? Option value default 42, and then I call sum 10, the result is still the same, right? And if I give none, it will take the default value here, right? That's as expected. So passing labeled arguments through the pipe operator will throw a syntax error, right? If I try something like default 42 and try to pass it through option dot value of none, so this will not work. Okay, so you can label the arguments using a tilde symbol. Let's look at how to name the parameters in a function definition. Let me clear this. So we have seen the range function before, so let's refine this again, saying first low, last is high, right? And we know that if low is greater than high, we return the empty list, else we call low and range. First we pass low plus 1, and for last we pass high. Okay, so the parameters for range are named as low and high inside the function body, and first and last are called when calling the function. Okay, so for example, we can do, when you're calling the function, you say first of 1 and last of 10. So we get a range of integer list that is from 1 to 10. Of course, the order should not matter, so I can do last 10 and first 1, and it should return the same result. You can use a shorter syntax when using the same name as label and parameter. So I can redefine this range as first last, right? I can say if first is greater than last, then empty list, else first range first plus 1 and last. Okay, so just more concise syntax. I can still run the same arguments, and you should be able to get. Welcome to the stream. Please feel free to ask questions if you have any. We are going through optional arguments and labeled parameters in today's session. So the optional arguments can be omitted. So when passed, a tilde or a question mark must be used, and they can of course be placed at any position and in any order. So let's see the example for sum. So init 0, so I'm just defining as fold left plus init u, right? So it's an optional parameter with a question mark. So if I do sum of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get the result 15. But I can pass an optional parameter with tilde in it and have a value of 100. So that will be 100 plus 15, right, as initial accumulator value, and that should return 150. Okay. Now it is also possible to pass optional arguments as values of type option. Again, this is done using the question mark when passing the argument. So let's try that. So we're just going to say question mark init sum 100. same result 115, and if I give init as none, right, it should just return the sum of the elements in the list. Okay. Right. Now, the optional parameters can have default values. So let's redefine the sum function here. Let me just go back and do the delta change, easy to see here. So instead of init, I'm going to say x equal to 0 question mark init x equal to 0 u is 4 left plus, instead of init I'm going to say x. It behaves the same, but here this question mark init x equal to 0, this means that init is an optional parameter that defaults to 0, and inside the function the parameter is named x. Okay. So that's the definition here of sum. So we can actually try the same examples as earlier, and we should get the same result with init 100. Okay. So the result is still the same. So next section we have defining optional parameters without default values. So you can omit the default value. So let's look at this variant of the string.sub function from the standard library. So let's define this. Position is 0, then we have length is len opt yes, and then we are defining default is string.length s minus pos in let length is option dot value default len opt in string dot sub s pos length. Okay. So here s is the string from which we are extracting a substring. Position is the pos is the substring starting position, default is 0, default is 0, and then length is the substring's length. If it's missing, it defaults to string length of s minus pos. Okay. So an optional parameter is not given a default value, its type inside the function is made an option. So here length appears as length int in the function signature. So here you see this here, but inside the body of the function length opt is an int option. That is what is given here. So let's try some examples here. So sub length 5 position 2 for immutability. So we are starting position 2 0 1 2 starting from here, right? So that's returns mutab. So similarly I mean the order should not matter here. Position 7, so I'm only giving position now. So it starts from I can give length to immutability. So position by default is 0, so it starts from the first letter, so I M, and then of course without any parameters it just returns a full string, right? Because everything is optional. The default is the full length minus 0, which is the full length of the string. Now it is possible to use the same name for the length parameter and label name. So let's just simplify this. So instead of we can just use length, and default is the same, length is option value default, this will be default len in string sub position length. Okay, we can simplify this. Now let's look at partial application with the optional arguments. Now we are going to compare two implementations for the string.concat function. Basically it takes a string and a string list and returns a string. So let me clear the screen here. In the first version, the optional separator is the last declared parameter. So let's define concat1, right, is equal to string dot concat separator ss. Okay, I'll tell you what the warning is later. Let's try some examples here. So concat1, I'm passing separator as double hyphen, then we have the string foo string list actually bars. Okay, now if I call concat1 with this separator, okay, it just returns string list string, it's a partial function application. And then if I call with foo bar and bas, same thing, right, it's a function. Now let's do a second version where the optional separator is first declared parameter, right? So we're putting this first here. Let's try this. Let concat separator equal to this, ss equal to string dot concat ss. So we can try the examples here. Concat with foo bar bas, then we have the separator hyphen hyphen. So get the same result as earlier, foo double dash bar double dash bas, and then we have concatenate with just double dash separator, runs a function, and then if I give a list, a string list here. Okay, so if we compare these two results, the differences when we applied to the argument, the foo bar bas, right, these two here. So in the case of concat, it returns the string because the default value of the separator is passed, right, this value is passed. But in the case of concat1, it returns a partially applied function. The default value is not passed. Okay. So the function's last declared parameter should not be optional. So this warning that you see here suggests that you should turn concat underscore 1 into concat. Okay. So optional parameters sort of make it difficult for the compiler to know if a function is partially applied or not. So that's why at least one positional parameter is required after the optional ones. So if present at application, it means that the function is fully applied. If it's missing, it means the function is partially applied. That's the example here. Let's look at parsing labeled arguments using the pipe operator. Let me clear the screen here. So a function's unlabeled argument as the first one simplifies the reading the function's type, and it does not prevent passing this argument using the pipe operator. So let's modify the range function, range step first last. First is greater than last, then empty, else we call first concatenation with range step first plus step and the last. Okay. Now I can just pass 3 using the pipe operator to range, give a last of 10 and a first of 1, and it should return the integer list with 1, 4, 7, 10 with separation of 3 integers. Now we can have function with only optional arguments, so that is also possible. So when all the parameters of a function need to be optional, a dummy, positional and occurring last parameter must be added. So usually the unit value is used in this context. So let's try this here. So let hello who is equal to world. This is optional. I just say in quotes hello who. Okay. So if I give hello, it returns the definition. Now I am calling it, so it returns the string hello world. I can pass an optional argument, this is Sabine, so it returns the function. I want to actually invoke it with the optional argument, so it returns hello and who is set to the string Sabine, and then you get the string hello Sabine. If I use none as the optional argument, oh, it's a question mark. I get the default hello world, because default value is definition is WHO equal to world, and then I can also do hello some Christine. I call the function, returns hello Christine. Okay. So without the unit parameter, the optional argument cannot be erased. Warning will be emitted. That's what is given. Right. You can also forward an optional argument. So passing an optional argument with a question mark allows forwarding without unwrapping. So we already have defined the sub function. So let's try this example here. Let me clear the screen. So we have let take length s sub length s. Okay. Now if I call take immutability length 2, right, it returns IM. Now I can define our take of s is sub position of s, and if I call our take immutability of 7, right, it returns with the offset 7. Okay. So in the definitions of take and rtake, the function sub is called with optional arguments passed with question marks. Right. In the definition of take, the optional argument has the same name as in sub. So writing just question mark length is sufficient to forward without unwrapping. So to conclude, functions can have named or optional parameters, and that's a quick introduction on how we can do labeled and optional arguments in OCaml. So I would encourage you to try these examples in UTOP. I have uploaded the previous videos on the YouTube channel. We paste the link to that. And the notes for today's session are also updated and available in the GitHub repo. Let me quickly paste the link in the chat, and also the GitHub. So we'll next stream will be on Sunday. We'll continue to work on the Emacs channel. Video list will do the Emacs manual streaming. Please feel free to try these examples, and we are continuing to work on the Learn eCaml documentation, and we will try to address more of these sections in the coming weeks. Okay. With that, let me stop the recording, and then we can raid somebody.